Hey, good evening. Welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, it's that old, there are some things that never actually lie down. They're dead, but they don't lie down. And it doesn't matter how many times you go over it. Like an expat owning a house or a piece of land here, you can't do it. And people come in, and they come in on the videos late, and they actually don't realize that we've dealt it to death in the past, and then they start on as if they're educating us all. Believe me, we've gone over it so many times, and people who know very well have given us their viewpoint on different cases. What's the other one? Well, the other one is what can happen to you in the Philippines. Oh boy, safety in the Philippines, that's really the title of this video, and it comes from a comment that was made by someone who obviously knows a great deal about the Philippines as a whole country, which is, after all, 7,000 islands. Now, when you say 7,000 islands, it really boils down to nothing like 7,000 islands for most of us, because it will boil down to the places like Palawan, Boracay, which are heavily slanted and built to the tourist industry. And anywhere where you have excessive amounts of tourism, then there's always the chance that the criminals will go there. Where else are you going to go? You're going to go where nobody's got any money and try and steal money? No, you're not. You're going to go to these places where there's lots of, I think, lots of foreigners. I'm guessing, and not that I have a criminal mind, but I'm guessing that if I was to look at kidnapping a foreigner, I would say, where's the most chances? And that's where I'd go. The list of things that can go wrong to you in this subscriber's comment were just endless. I did actually read the whole thing, and at the end of it I felt like packing my bags and hoping that I'd make it down to the ferry and to the airport before I got kidnapped, beheaded, raped, robbed, mugged. And I don't actually find any of that. Whether it is that I don't go out towing a war behind me, which I talked about this before, I think that the way that people treat you is a lot to do with how you put the vibes out, you know. God, doesn't that sound like the 60s? Good vibes, bad vibes. But you actually emanate stuff from you, and I know people that walk around with a black cloud over them, and you don't want to talk to them because you're afraid that they will snap your head off. And in one particular case, I tried to talk to one of them, and he did snap my head off. So I stay away from those kind of people, and I'm sure that people in the Philippines also do the same thing. I told you that I got so many instances of where people who had nothing, who really could almost be forgiven for robbing you because they've got so little. We ran out of... we started overheating, started overheating, pulled in at the side of the road. This is between our place and a taffy, so it's not very far. But we pulled in at the side of the road, and I checked, and it needed coolant. Well, we needed to get to a place where there would be coolant, and I wasn't prepared to drive it any further. Anyway, it could cool off. So I was walking towards a place where I knew that there was a hardware store where I'd be able to get what I wanted. And on the way, there's a motorcycle parked in front of this, by the side of the road, in front of a very humble house. And an elderly guy came out. I should be talking about elderly, but you understand what I mean. Someone in 50s or 60s came out and started to get on his motorcycle. And he had the look of one of the motorcyclists that I see down at the church in a taffy, who will take you anywhere that you want to go. Usually, either if they don't have a crash helmet on, they usually have a t-shirt which they arrange so that the the neck piece of the t-shirt is here like this, and they put that over their head. Well, he had the start of that on his head, not covering all of his face, right? So on the off chance, I said to him, can you take me to the hardware store? I said, yes. So he turns the bike around, I get on the bike, he drives me to, and safely, he drives me to the hardware store. He pulls into the hardware store. Oh, by the way, I've already mimed to him the truck down there. I point, and you can still see the truck. It's my little red truck. And I'm saying, overheated, no good. I need to go to the hardware store. And he gets the point. Anyway, he takes me to the hardware store, gets off, and he tells them in Visayas what I want. So I go up, and the guy behind the store says, so you want coolant or oil? Yes, I do. What's it for? The multicab. Oh, fine. How much will I need? Is it it's a multicab? Yeah, this is what you need. I get everything I need. The man is still waiting for me. So I go back, I get back on the bike, and he takes me down to where the truck is. And he waits to make sure that everything is okay. I get off, I put it, and he waits, and then I said to him, how much do I owe you? Magkano, which is how much? Magkano. And I pulled out 100 peso note. $2 is 100 pesos. A little bit more than, well, $2, 100 pesos is a little bit less than $2. And I handed him, I held the 100 pesos out to him, and he said to me, 20 pesos. So I'm thinking, what, another 20 pesos in addition to the 100? He said 20 pesos. In other words, he'd done all of that, and all he was going to charge me was 20 pesos. I thrust the 100 pesos into his hand, and I said, thank you very much, sir. Somebody else, when I was at the another instance that stand out, and I was at the hardware store, Edgar's hardware store, Ambacon, and somebody tapped me on the shoulders. I was there waiting in line, and I pulled my money out and I sorted it through, and I was waiting for it. Somebody tapped me on the arm, a young guy. He's got a 500 peso note in his hand. So I'm looking at him, and he said, you dropped it. Now, 500 pesos is an entire day's wages for a lot of people. Another one, when I took some guys that were working on the truck which had broken down and we needed parts, so I just said to them, let's all go together, and we went in one of the other trucks. We'll just have lunch while we're out. So I go down there, I go into a small candereria, which is very humble. It's like a simple, it's the equivalent of a working men's cafe in the UK. And we go in there, we have a meal, and one of the guys, rather than have me pay for rice for the meal, he's brought his own rice, which he brought to eat while he was at the work fixing the truck. There's three. There's the mechanic, main mechanic, and two young helpers. So rather than that, he said, no rice for me, I have my own. And we were served, and the bill was so little for 4 people, and it was a very ancient looking little lady, and she came up and she told me how much. And I think it was incredible, like 200 pesos or something. And I gave her, or it was even less, maybe it was under 300. And I gave her this, and I said, thank you. And she knew that from the way I'd said it, that was it. But she didn't get it, that I wanted her to have that. Now, I'm not the hero in this story, by the way. It was a very small amount, another plus 20 pesos or something. And she turned and said, no, this is wrong. It's too much. Now, there's a little lady that probably lives in a dirt floor Nipa house, and she turned down, she rejected the chance to take an extra 20 pesos. Of course I said, no, that's right, thank you. And she was very grateful. And I have this all the time. Now, in the comment that I'm inspired to respond to, it does go on about murders, people being kidnapped. It's not safe. You can be robbed, you can be beaten up, you can be mugged, you can have your house broken in. If you are a foreigner, you will have your... I'm not going to go into how many other things that I read, but basically, if you're a foreigner, you are in trouble. You're going to be screwed one way or the other. Go out one day and you'll be screwed. And at best, it's an opinion given as fact, and at worst, it's almost like a fear-mongering generalization, because I never feel unsafe. I never feel threatened. All the time when we go into Taliban, if we've done any shopping for anything, we leave it in the back of the open truck on the little red, and we leave it in the back. I've at one of the recent birthday parties for I think for baby Jane, I think it was, and I bought a couple of cakes and we took them down because baby Jane is a favourite little girl of mine. She's the one with osteo the bone disease, and osteogenesis imperfecta it's called. So I bought these cakes, and the cakes were worth 500 or 600 pesos, and I don't know why, but I didn't put them into the cab. It just gets so hot in there, so I just put them in the back of the truck. Oh, close up to the back of the cab, and we do have one of those windowed canopies over it in fiberglass, and I just left them in there, and I left them in there, and I came back about 45 minutes later. The multi-cab totally untended, nobody there. I didn't ask anybody to watch over it, anything. I just left the cakes in there, and it's not a problem. They're still there, and we do that all the time. Now, we have other trust points where if we are going to say if we've been asked to drop some groceries off for someone, right, we go to a sari store and we stop by the door, and most of the time we don't even get out. Beth will say, she calls everybody die, and the man comes out and she says, a box of groceries for one person for 1,500, and the man says okay, and we tell him we'll be back in maybe an hour on our way back from Taliban, and we come back, the box is ready, and inside there'll be a little note like this, and it will have itemized on it every single thing he put in there with the price, and then the bottom. Now, if he manages to get the thing to total 1,500 pesos, great. But if he doesn't, he'll make it up with a couple of crackers or some candy or something like that, and he'll make it up to exactly 1,500. Right? He wants the business, but he's honest, and we totally trust him to do that. Now, just because some people have made a comment about that and said, oh, it doesn't look like that, and so we end up emptying the box and saying, look, this is what's in it, because in the top of it, the light part, there'll be noodles and coffee and stuff like that, light stuff, and then in the bottom part will be the canned goods, which will always be eaten and can be stored by someone who doesn't have either power or a refrigerator anyway. So we're talking about honesty, and we're talking about whether you feel safe. Now, I know that people have been shot and killed. I know that some women have taken on expats and then plotted with their boyfriend to kill him. I know that people have been taken for ransom and ended up losing their head. I know that all of these happen, but when I was in America, nutcases were strolling into schools and killing school children. They have their share, no matter where you are in the world, and we always end up getting back to this. No matter where you are in the world, you are at risk. What's the chances? What's your fate? What's your destiny? Is it mine to get shot tomorrow? I saw something on Facebook yesterday, and this darling little girl who was about 2 years old and was in the car with her parents, and some nutcase in America, he fires a bullet into the car. For what? And the little girl takes a bullet in the head. Now, does that mean I'm never going to go and live in that place? Well, that wouldn't be the reason. I wouldn't say, no, I'm not going to live there, wherever it was, Illinois, or I don't know, Chicago, or wherever it was. No, I'm not going to go and live there. I don't want my little girl to get shot in the head. It can't be viewed like that, can it? It really can't be viewed like that, as if that's what's going to happen to you. Right now, the entire world has got the wind up it, because everybody's afraid of what might happen. And I get caught up in it every time I take a plane anywhere. I go there, I have to have somebody pat me down. My bag, whatever is in it, has to go through an x-ray machine. If it's got anything in there that they don't like, I have to leave it. I had to leave a really nice, one of those little all-purpose tools that open up, and there are pliers and scissors and a pen knife and the whole thing. And somebody had given that to me. It was a gift that I really cared about. And when it went through the x-ray machine, the man says, that little thing that you have there, they won't allow it on the plane. What do I do with it? I hand it over. Then I put my shoes back on, fasten my laces, put my belt back on, get my keys and my wallet and my spare change out of that bucket that they give you, or that tray, right? I pick up my baggage, I put my bag on. Anything that's metal, I might have to have put my metal frame glasses on there. Somebody has patted me down, and I end up, and I probably have to go through that maybe twice. And that's because somebody somewhere did a load of crazy stuff. Are they doing it everywhere? No, they're probably dead or in prison by now. But we're all held to ransom by these feelings or convictions of fear. You know, now in America, they're talking, as far as the last I heard, of arming the teachers. So the teachers are possibly going to be armed. If you remember, after 9/11, and one of the situations there supposedly was that the hijackers managed to force their way into the pilot's cabin, and then after that, and they forced I think they shot the captain, and well, the plane apparently went down. And then they started talking about captains saying, we want to be armed, we want to be able to, if somebody is hammering on that door, because they now keep the door locked, they want to be able to shoot them. In a pressurized cabin, by the way. Now, I remember when I first started flying, you could actually speak to one of the flight attendants and say, "Miss, I'm taking lessons on flying," if it was true, of course. I'm having flying lessons. I wonder if the captain would allow me to sit on the jump seat and just see and experience a takeoff or landing or something. And she'll say, "Sir, I'll ask him." And if Captain Frederick was in a good mood, he might say yes or no. And then when you went up there, he'd say, "How do you do, sir? And this is the cabin. And here, look." And they might let you sit in the other seat or something. It was so different then. And you never had to take your shoes off when you went to the airport, or the belt off your trousers and walk through that silly doorway that tells if you've got metal on your belt. Our lives have been changed by assuming that everything is going to happen everywhere because of isolated incidents. And I, for one, cannot assume that I'm going to be the next one to be hit, threatened, disliked, insulted, cheated, robbed, because somebody else over there got it done. It doesn't make any sense to me. And maybe I am choosing to view things through rose-colored glasses. Maybe I am, but what else can you do? Can you really live in fear? It always gets back to this. Can you live in fear? Where will you go? If you're afraid of bad weather, where will you go in the world that doesn't have something that can go wrong? People who were having the time of their lives on the beach in, Thailand, and suddenly a 60 or 90 foot wave washed in from sea and took everything with it and everybody. What shall we do? Never go back to Thailand again? People are already on that beach now because you can't live in fear of everything. So I don't feel safe. I don't feel unsafe in the Philippines. I've been here for 5 years. I haven't had any remotely unpleasant experiences. So I would rather keep assuming that it's going to be that way rather than any other. This is a foreigner in the Philippines. Stay safe. And if you find a place where it's perfectly safe and the weather's good, can you let me know? Bye for now.